Hiya, how's it going? It's almost Halloween, which is my favorite holiday of the year, apart from Christmas. So I thought I would show you how to make a basic wound using silicone. It looks kind of complicated and it looks a lot more realistic than just drawing something on, but it's not actually that hard. You just need a few things that most people probably don't have in their kits already, unless you've done some special effects before. So first of all, what you need is silicone. Obviously, it comes in 2 parts, or some brands comes in 3 parts, but the basics of it is that you have several different parts that you mix together, and when you start mixing them together they start setting immediately, so you have to work quite quickly with this. Another thing that you need is an alcohol based palette. So this is the Skin Illustrator Starter Palette, which is sufficient for me. I don't use it that often. The bigger ones can be kind of expensive, so I chose to get a smaller one. So you need a alcohol activated palette because any other form of makeup isn't going to stick to silicone. So mine has a few different skin tones and a red. I would love for it to have a black as well, but it doesn't. So you can use something like a gel liner for what we're going to use it for. But most other makeup, such as foundation for example, will not stick to silicone. Another thing you need is 99% alcohol to activate your alcohol palette. I buy this in a huge 1 litre bottle because it's really useful for cleaning your brushes as well. So if you love hygiene like me, get you some. Another thing you need, of course, is different forms of blood. So I've got some runny blood, I've got some dry blood, and I've got some scab. You can get away with using less blood than that, but I always like using at least 2 different kinds of blood to kind of make it look a bit more realistic. So to start off with, you want to put down a bit of a layer of the blood color. This doesn't need to be perfect, it's just because your skin gets irritated whenever you get a wound, so you need some sort of base to make sure that the wound looks more realistic. Then you take both of your components, and as I was saying earlier, these start setting as soon as you mix them together. So it's very important that you use 2 spatulas. You can't just use one and dip them into both of the pots, because then you will ruin all of your silicone. Start by taking equal parts of both of the components. Be careful not to take too much, because however much you use of each component, you're going to have twice the amount of finished silicone, and it's a lot better to have to mix up more than to realize when you're finished that you still have a huge lump of silicone sitting on your hand. Your first priority is blending. Because silicone sets quite quickly, the most difficult part is blending it with the skin, so start doing that by just scraping gently along the skin to make sure that it blends properly. Once you've blended, start cutting into it and make it as gross as you want. The grosser the better, it is Halloween after all. Silicone is a great material because it moves with your body, so you can wear it all night. Something like skull wax, for example, you can only really use it for photo shoots because it will start falling off you fairly soon. But with silicone, for example, if you put it on your cheek, you can still talk, you can laugh, you can have a good time, and you don't have to worry about what you look like. You don't have to powder silicone, but I always like to because it can be a bit shiny sometimes, especially on the parts where you've just blended it and not cut into it. So by putting some powder on, you will make it blend in with your skin a lot better. Your next step to blending the silicone with your skin is to take your alcohol activated palette again, choosing a color that matches your skin tone as closely as possible, and flicking it on gently with a brush that has stiff bristles. So for example, a toothbrush works really well for this. No one's skin is one perfectly uniform color, so flicking it on and leaving these tiny dots will help preserve that natural texture that you have in your skin. So once you've blended it to your satisfaction, it's time to start painting. So I always start with a blood color, and then I use a black to deepen the wound a bit and enhance the illusion. Once you start playing around with the blood, there's no need to be careful at all anymore, because any realistic wound is not going to be clean. The only situation you would find any cleanliness in wounds is if you're having surgery. If you're having your cheek ripped open like here, that person is way beyond taking any care not to get any blood on you or themselves, so just go wild. The only thing I think you should be careful about when using blood is that you don't want to cover up any of the work that you've already done. The best way to learn what types of blood you should be using for what purposes is just to experiment. And the best part is that you can't really go wrong. As long as it looks kind of gross, you're doing something right. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that you don't feel as intimidated by silicone anymore, because it is really very easy to use. It's just that it has a slight learning curve, and if you've not been told by anyone how to use it, it just seems insurmountable. But there's a lot of different things that you can do with silicone. This is just a basic wound, but I'm hoping to show you some other things that you can do with it as well later on before Halloween. So if you want to go out looking completely super gross, I am here for you. So stay tuned and I will see you soon. Bye.